Bruce sees all.
A little surprise, I am back. We're not close enough. I got my zoom freaks, well, me. I love zooming up on the moon. This is the top north side of the moon. Well, actually, it's not the north side, but it's what's there now during this September moon, because the north rolls all the way to the right, like many of you have mentioned to me. Bruce, did you see how cartwheeled and shifted the moon is, Stephen A. Andromeda? Yes, it really is. So I wanted to share this extra video with you all. Get in close to the moon, look at a whole bunch of things, UFOs, who knows where I'm going to go with this video, but I do appreciate the support here. I'm here answering all the comments at the same time. Thanks for helping me make this channel what it is. I appreciate that. Well, there are gaps in the system, that's for sure. There's no way in hell any astronaut or scientist, I mean, I have no scientific documents saying that I've received papers for having gone to school for scientific research, but let me tell you, there's no way in hell anyone's going to tell me that that is natural. That is not naturally formed. But you see, they're not talking about them. Quite simply, they're leaving out the parts that give us questions. So let's have some fun. Many people ask me, Bruce, show some comparisons over the years and try to see if there are any changes. With pleasure. It took a couple of years anyways for me to be able to accumulate some footage. But here, Aristarchus, a couple of years back, we see these two white spots, right? I don't see any signs of other smaller craters lined up. It doesn't mean they're not there, and it doesn't mean they were just put there, but it could mean also that, you know, it wasn't clear enough for me to see it, thus proving that atmosphere or something is causing me, for some reason, not to see the crater properly. For whatever the reason, here I'm able to see it with the same telescope and zoom up a lot clearer. We see at the bottom there, those smaller craters. I'm just showing you that there's a big difference. And now there's 3 spots of light, and there's another area there. So right off the bat, well, there's some differences between Aristarchus crater a couple of years back. Let's bring down the exposure right down and zoom into Aristarchus crater. This, again, a couple of years back. We're talking 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. We're seeing some lights fluttering on the surface. But there's something very particular I want you to notice about those lights. They're changing places, but aside from that, it's not a reflection of the sun hitting the surface. It's under a haze. We see lights that are in movement. They're appearing, disappearing, whether it be explosions or not. That's right inside of Aristarchus crater. So like I've said over the years, and of course those just arriving won't know, but UFOs, I've visually proved it, they hide under the hazes. Even the ones that come out of the surface, we'd never know because they're really hiding under that surface haze. Hey guys, this is Copernicus crater, and we're going to talk about the blue spot that everyone talks about on the moon that I see that is very close to Copernicus crater, and at the same time, some very interesting objects or structures or anomalies, whatever you want to call it. First, here, some variation. I really wanted to show you this. 2 objects, the tunnel or tower, and that weird elongated crater. Check it out. We're going to look at the elongated crater that I showed you on the left. But now we're looking at it near the terminator line. You see how it's elevated? You see how it's, elongated even more? You can see the elevation because of the terminator line. There it is, the other object on the right. Isn't it hard to believe that that's the object I just showed you? And on the left, you can see that this spaceship-like object rising up off of the surface really high, because the terminator line shows us a lot of elevation. The line of darkness and light together. Here, the image turned around, you can clearly see if it's not something that's lifted up off the surface, it's definitely something that was built it does not look natural, that's for sure. What do you think? Before we go to the surface of the moon, I'm going to explain something to you. The way I show some of the UFOs and the structures on the surface, there's a lot of brightness. You see how there's brightness here? Watch, I'll take down the exposure with an example from Earth and light scattering that we'll see the surface and the objects that are absolutely invisible to us. So we'll keep going here. So the brightness, this is a regular, smoggy light scattering day in a large town. But when you bring down the exposure, you can see more detail on some buildings. And of course, there's other areas, for example, of the image that you're going to lose the image. The same thing here. Like on the moon, you want to see inside the crater or UFOs along the crater. Imagine the top is a crater. Watch this. Quite simply explained. I'll bring down the exposure because there's actually something going by there in the background, which you all know as a vehicle. And we can see it there, not easily, but we can still see it. And that, quite simply, is what I'm doing to show the surface. Now, I want to show you a constructed object on the surface that baffles me. It could be a radio telescope. It could be something that was constructed for communication. Like us here on Earth, we hide, maybe not necessarily the chemtrails are for hiding Earth, but they definitely do hide many areas of the surface here. Now, here on the moon, that is an elevated object that we can see the crater through it. Over there on the right, where the arrow is where on top in the small image the triangular object is. And the other object in the brightness is just beside it. Hard to see. Here, close up like that, the dark spots are not shadows. They are unique objects themselves. In general, straight up, that right here is a base setup or constructed setup, whether it be no matter what, machine, building, it's like that. It's reflective, near impossible to see, but it's not a secret. That's exactly what they're doing. Naturally hiding the surface with smokes, hazes, could be just regular atmosphere. Here's a nice shot of Copernicus and that blue spot underneath it. Everyone talks about on the moon that some say it's a lake, a river, the Blue River, the Blue Lagoon, if you want. It is very interesting. There's so many interesting things to view on the moon. And of course, I'm going to integrate now, looking back into the footage only a couple of years ago. If we're already seeing changes, it could be many things, right? It could be the atmosphere that's different. It could be construction, literally. It could be because of natural reasons, Listen, we're going to look into that, but visually seen, like here, for example, just off to the right of Bianchini Crater, one of my favorite areas, and the square crater on the bottom right, it's ridiculous. You can see this, some type of dirt or smaller structures over top, right? Let's see it quite simply in a negative. Here's the negative, and just the square on the bottom right gives me chills. You have to understand what we're looking at. It's the surface, and we're looking at blurry dirt or something that's over top of the structures that leaves you to wonder, like, what the heck is going on the surface. And we can see this by a simple descending of the exposure. And here, this is just with the green filter, by the way. There's no negative. Now, here's something interesting I really wanted to share with you. On the surface of the moon, even though we're looking at Earth in this video right now, we're looking at solar panels. But I want to show you how we place solar panels here in the desert in a way that, for me, really made me smile and wonder if we're doing that deliberately, placing them like this to hide from aliens or other planets, or even Russia taking images, China taking images over the States here as you're looking right now. It looks like a river, right? Literally looks like a river. So those are all solar panels. So around the craters on the moon, if they stuck some panels like this, we'd also never see it. And don't forget, there's that reflectivity of the surface that's really giving us an incredible hard time. This, I really wanted to share it with you because look at that. And look at the white ones over there. It all has to do with solar energy. It's in the desert, and of course, it's placed in a way where it really does, I find, here's a zoom up, it blends in with nature. It looks like a river or water that accumulated there, right? Even though you say, oh, well, they're in the desert, it doesn't matter. From another planet, it would be black. It wouldn't even be blue. It'd be near impossible. Would be impossible to see. They would never ever be able to differentiate each of those solar panels just because they're all side by side like that. Just to give you an idea of how the perception, how they can change the surface and like to stump us. Everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to watch the videos.
Yeah. Aliens up down on the moon. They may be even coming right here soon. Aliens are landing on the moon. Yes, they are up there. Doesn't matter cause disclosure's coming soon. Disclosure's coming soon.